I want to introduce our moderators. We have 4 moderators who's going to ask the 4 questions. And by the way, the questions were given out to everybody. You all have copies of the questions. The candidates all have copies of the 4 questions. So it's going to be interesting to hear their answers to them. Our 4 moderators were picked from the Olney Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. So they're all board members. We have in no particular order, except the first moderator is going to be Mark Rosendorf, Brian Bailey, Karen Rollins, and then, of course, Matt Quinn. And Matt's going to have another speaking role in a moment. I forgot my speech at home, so I just made a quick... I want to thank, this event is being hosted by both the Olney Chamber of Commerce, and thank you to Allison Weiss, where she's here somewhere. She was, there. For co-sponsoring and co-hosting this and setting up, and all of this has been set up by Allison and her staff. So with no further ado, we're going to review I can't even talk. We're going to review the rules that the candidates have in advance, and Matt is going to do that. After which, Matt is going to introduce Allison, say a few words, and then we're going to begin. So thank you.
A couple of quick notes. Again, thank you for coming here. Sharif has COVID. He was hoping that he was going to be able to attend via Zoom, and we had tried to get that set up. But he called me probably 45 minutes ago and said that he was just not prepared. He was feeling terrible, and so it was better for him not to be seen in that kind of condition, and so it's bowed out for today. We'll find another opportunity for Sharif to engage with the Chamber of Commerce before June is up. I also want to acknowledge that Harold Maldonado is here. This is a debate for the Democratic candidates for the primary. So one of these fine folks here will win the Democratic primary on July 19th. The early voting starts, I believe, about the 7th of July. And so please vote. I don't think, if you're attending this, you're clearly going to vote, right? So I think it's a really good thing. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Harold is running unopposed, so he will be on the ballot in November, so that there's not a Republican debate. We'll figure out something to have whoever is challenging Harold in the November election to do something similar. We're just trying to get through the primary season. We're all volunteers here. All right, so as far as the debate is concerned, or this event, this is more of a round table. Somebody didn't get through elementary school.
Round table.
Right. And we're saying this is not a debate because the purpose is not, and they've all been involved in a variety of events that we've all taken, many of us have taken, been engaged with, and they've all behaved well and representing the 7th district really well. So we're happy with that, and we want that to continue. So I'm not really worried about this being some kind of theater. This is an opportunity to be informed, specific to business issues for this particular district. Each candidate, we did draw names. Fred had an envelope, and that's the order in which they will go in as they go across the table, so that those names or those positions were selected randomly. Each candidate will be given we've given the 4 questions in advance. They'll have 2 minutes to answer each question, and 1 minute to provide a follow-up, if one of the moderators has a follow-up to that particular question. Because of time constraints, we will be working to monitor the time frame. Brian will be the timekeeper. When we get to the 1 minute and 30 second mark, I'll hold up this light. That means you've got 30 seconds left to go.
You got a microphone, don't you?
Well, I don't think we have that technology set up to cut out the microphone. And then if we have time, then we'll be taking questions from the audience. And if we don't have time during this 90-minute session, then those who can stay and be in the hallway in the back, then there's refreshments and you can pigeonhole them back there. All right? So the first question comes from Mark.
You just mentioned refreshments.
I do, and I'll send that.
Thank you, Matt.
Allison?
Oh, I thought you were turning your mark.
Sorry. I think it was your turn.
That's thank you. I didn't forget my speech at home. I didn't write a speech, so I'll make this very brief. Welcome, everybody. We're thrilled to be partnering with the Chamber on an event like this. This is perfect use for a community gathering place. I also just want to make a point to our candidates that the museum is a business also, although we're nonprofits, and the arts and culture are a big economic driver in the county, and we are really grateful to the local businesses who support us. We support you as well. We always buy local when we can, so I'm eager to hear what the candidates have to say about supporting arts and culture. Thank you.
Okay, Mark, no further ado.
Well, that's a great segue. Economic driver is what we believe is the engine for growth and productivity in this region and the state as a whole. So the first question we would like to pose to the panel, what actions can you take or follow to make doing business in District 7 and Montgomery County easier? Repeat it. What actions can you take to make doing business in District 7 and Montgomery County as a whole easier?
Who was number one?
I guess I go. All right. So thank you very much for having us here, GOCA, the Gaithersburg Chamber of Commerce, for giving us this forum to express our ideas and what's going on. I've lived here for 20 years, and I feel doing business has always been a challenge. I grew up in Northern Virginia. Northern Virginia seems to have a lot less things that are making it cumbersome in Northern Virginia for them to grow and blossom. They have different problems, like you can't go anywhere in between the hours of 4 and 6 due to traffic. Our traffic, believe it or not, is a lot better than theirs for those reasons. And when I used to have a real estate license in Virginia, I wouldn't schedule anything after 3 because I knew I'd never make it back. So one of the biggest challenges we have here, in my opinion, are our small businesses face a heavier tax burden than anyone else. And I feel we need to figure out the best way to level the playing field so the small businesses can compete and not get stifled by big businesses. One of the things which I do like is the fact that we have a differential in the employment, hourly employment rates, where the small businesses do have less than a bigger business. But we need to figure out better ways to level that. I believe delivery companies, I think this has been a big problem throughout the country, need to pay their fair share of infrastructure taxes. I mean, let's think about this. What vehicles drive down your roads the most? The answer, the Amazon truck, the UPS truck, and the FedEx truck. How much infrastructure are they paying for? From what I know, next to none. So we've got to figure out to find a better balance where the delivery companies are actually paying for some infrastructure costs. And the other thing is we need to promote our businesses, support our businesses, because we don't know who's going to be the next small business success. Two of my big examples I like to use all the time are Honest Tea and MedImmune. Were both fostered as small businesses, small incubators in this county, and then now I'm really confused because the light's going off or blinking. All right, go ahead.
I'll stand up if you don't mind. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Ben Wickner, and it's great to be with you. Appreciate the opportunity to be able to address this audience and be able to interact on these important questions. So in regards to business, one of the things that I have said throughout this campaign is I believe that small business is the backbone of the economy. And I think we have to, as a community, I think we have to, as elected officials, really invest in our business community. I run a nonprofit. We started it from scratch. We are members of the Gaithersburg Germantown Chamber of Commerce. It's something that, way before I ever decided to run for office, this is what you do. You invest in the community. You get involved. You get connected with the business community, and you do what we love. We build relationships. We establish better communication. We work in collaboration and partnership with one another. And so this is something that I've been doing for years now, and I look forward to the opportunity of being able to do it as a council member. The other thing that I would just say is that I think since I have extra time here, I think we need to have better cooperation and collaboration. And that includes having feedback from the business community. One thing that I've noticed is that oftentimes there's a disconnect. There isn't that communication channel. And so therefore, politicians and people in elected office they're trying to do good, but they're not connected. They're not connected to the business community and to the people who are in the trenches getting the job done. And so one of the things I think we have to do a better job is getting that feedback from the business community.
I just wanted to make sure his little light was reset. Okay. It's fabulous. It's fabulous. Hi, I'm John Lucy. Thank you for having us. By way of a tiny bit of background, particular to this question, I came from a family of small business owners in my hometown, and that's what our business was. We had multiple, whether it was my family, my uncles, my great-grandfather built our local movie theater, that kind of a thing. And all of those businesses ultimately ended up folding due to pressure from big box stores and Cineplex, right? So this is an issue that's near and dear to my heart. The question you asked had two pieces to it. So the question asked, what can be done specifically for District 7, and what needs to be changed or done with respect to Montgomery County as a whole. So first and foremost, here in District 7, this is the prime opportunity for you all, and particularly for our small business community, to have the voice that you have not had for a very long time, right? Because you have felt long neglected, and this is a time and an opportunity to take that and focus on your unique needs that haven't been addressed and haven't been met over time, that are specific to this geographic area and not the same as down county, right? So the person who is going to take this job, and believe me, I hope it is me, is there to be your advocate, is there to be passionate for your interests and your needs. That inherently requires going out and listening to the community, to knowing where you see the gaps, where you perceive the gaps. It's not about what I think individually, it's about what your needs are. And taking that back to the county as a whole to figure out what can be done to better suit your needs up here. And then the other piece of that is, I view any elected official as appropriate to being sort of a yenta for your local businesses and connecting organizations and businesses together to help find appropriate partnerships to maximize your efficiencies. With respect to the county as a whole, and I'm running out of time, my goal would be to increase government efficiencies to reduce regulatory barriers to success.
Thank you.
I'm up.
You're up.
I teach entrepreneurship at the University of Maryland and run a Center for Enterprise and Markets there, where we research what makes the conditions for prosperity in a community and how businesses start. That was after 20 plus almost 30-year career in business. So this is something I understand. I've started a small business with my husband. I've run a large hedge fund complex based in Bethesda. The second question that's coming up really gets to one of the things I would like to talk about, which is a problem. The question here is, what should we do to make doing business in Montgomery County easier? So the next question I'll tip is a lot about permitting services, so I won't waste my time with that here. I'll just talk about a few ideas to answer the question, how do we make doing business easier? That was the question. I think about procurement and our local preference program. We finally, in the last administration, have fixed that a little bit, the local preference program. I would like to see a policy around that RFP process really benefit Montgomery County businesses and expand the amount that we give preferences to. And another thing I'd like to examine to make it easier for businesses in our community is access to capital. I've actually been already out, many of you already know me because I've been coming to chamber meetings already listening to what you are having trouble with. So it's not really my ideas, it's what I've been hearing over and over and over again. And access to capital is one of the ones that's come up. So I think, if we look at the Green Bank, which we have already, that's functioning, and look at maybe launching something similar to that, where we could give access to capital to people who are traditionally not able to get access because of structural impediments, or the fact that they just want to get small amounts of capital, and traditionally middle markets don't want to go after those small amounts of capital. And I think that's a perfect role for government to be involved. think that's it. My ding-ding's about to go, yeah. I know my 2 minutes. We've been doing this a long time. It's like Pavlov stops. Talk for 2 minutes. Off. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul Gellert. I'm honored to be here in my own backyard. I'm proud Olney, and I thank the Olney Chamber of Commerce for putting this on today, so thank you. One of the biggest challenges that we face here in the county to doing small business is permitting. It's a nightmare. For those of us who were out a couple of weeks ago, the Cadence of Olney opened, they mentioned that it took 7 years to open this adult living facility. 7 years. The struggles, the trials, and the tribulations to do that are immense. We have to cut that. As your next council member, I will see to it that we do make sure the Department of Permitting Services is customer service oriented, user friendly, and most importantly of all, consistent in their rulings. There's a famous story, I heard it the day it was uttered at a county council meeting about 6 years ago, when someone had mentioned there was an intergenerational family that was turning over their restaurant business. It was going from one generation to the next. They required about $500,000 in renovations to this restaurant, which they said, we understand, it's okay if we have to do that. The problem was, about 6 months later, after making all these investments, another inspector came through and said, you know something, that wall that you put in, that's incorrect, you're gonna have to take that down. $80,000 of additional expenses. This is unacceptable, and on my watch, that will stop. Enough is enough of that. The other thing that's very important is, if you visit the Montgomery Economic Development Corporation website, you will see one page dedicated to small businesses. One page, that's it. I want to make sure that they focus more on small businesses, because that's the lifeblood of our communities.
I'm up. Okay, sure. My name is Paul Schwartz, and I don't live in Olney. I live in the suburb of Olney, which is, as you all know. I look at the questions. What struck me is question one, as chaplain, when asked question two, to me it's just about the same. Because the question is, what actions can we take to make doing business in District 7 and Montgomery County easier? Streamline the permitting process is the #1 answer. I've been checking with small businesses around the district, and that is the #1 answer. So what do we have to do about that? Number one, the first thing is they say that it's length and cost are two key factors that make this an obstacle. So we have to institute a specific turnaround time. There's no excuse why it goes on forever. Another complaint that they shared with me is that they said that sometimes they have to go through 5 entities to get this process done. And if the guy on the second entity is on vacation, they don't go to the third, they wait till he comes back. And before this, they continue the process. That takes on a lot of time and a lot of unnecessary time. There's no excuse for that. So these are things that we can immediately get done. The other thing I want to emphasize is there really is a need for a go-to entity at the county level to oversee the process. So what I have in mind is like a business czar, all right, but someone who has teeth, who can oversee the process and make changes along the way if they see something is out of line. They use the term to make as sometimes they experience overkill. I say, what do you mean by overkill? Well, when a bureaucrat gets power hungry and nickels and dimes them, that's overkill. If you have a czar or even an ombudsman overseeing the process, that to me can alleviate that particular problem. So there are things that we can do. Also, I would be in favor of conducting a formal review of the process. Finish that 30 seconds ago, or no? Finish your thought. To be continued. I was on a roll.
I'm going to interrupt just for a moment. Hi, it's me again. Yes, I forgot my speech, so I forgot to say certain things. One thing that's very important is I didn't review the agenda. On the agenda, each of you have 2 minutes at the beginning, right now, to introduce yourselves, rather than jumping right into it. So we're going to start.
Start over, and then we're going to go back to question 1.
We're going to start over with introductions. You have 2 minutes. and then we'll go on to the second question. But listening to you, I just want to emphasize, and to the audience here, for years and years, being in the chamber, we're business oriented. We support our business members. And the big overall general problem that we've had is we have been ignored by Montgomery County government, the chamber, the county council, and the county executive. We are not Silver Spring. We are not Rockville. We're not Bethesda. We are a small, very unique, boutique kind of business community. Yes, we have some large businesses here, but the majority of our members are small businesses. And we're not allowed to participate in other opportunities that you give to some of these other larger cities and counties, and that's a shame. And whenever somebody is speaking, it's always in Bethesda, or no one ever comes out here. And we need that, and we need that to be recognized. And the second thing I want to mention is that's our general problem. The number one business problem is the number two thing on the agenda. It is an extremely difficult and expensive process to start a new business, enhance a new business, expand a new business. It takes months and months and months to get the permits. It costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. If I had a half hour, I could go through probably a dozen businesses that we're aware of that have been delayed from March to September, where they think they're ready for grand opening, and now the inspector comes out and it's another $200,000 because county council said this is what you need to do. The inspector comes out and says, no, that's wrong. You can't do that. And it goes on and on. There's no coordination between the two organizations. This has to stop. That's our number one problem.
Seriously?
Yeah.
What are you running for?
Great job.
Minutes are up.
Yeah, so let's start again. Please introduce, I apologize for the delay. Please introduce yourselves to the audience.
Sure, thank you. Thank you.
Andrew, go.
Okay.
Same order.
You're up.
All right, I guess I'm up again. I guess I could introduce myself now this time. All right, hello, my name is Andrew Einsman. I wear so many hats I can't even keep track anymore. First of all, I'm a father of two great kids. One goes to Washington University in St. Louis, and one is at Sequoia Elementary School. I am a real estate agent by trade. I've been in the real estate field for, again, I don't know how long, it's almost as long as Karen. I, as well as I have my own businesses, or my own property management stuff. I've coached soccer, so I apologize. I'm going to be leaving right after this. I'm missing one practice, but I'm going to catch the second end of the other practice. And we're slowly building a club where I am to keep soccer local. One of the big problems with soccer, if anyone's had a kid playing soccer, your whole Sunday shot, even if they're a mediocre player, because they have to play travel. So I'm trying to keep it as local as possible for as long as possible for those costs, keep those costs down. So it levels the playing field for a lot of the kids that I work with, which are in disenfranchised communities and different franchise developments. And one of my other big hats I'm very proud of is I am a two-time Rotary Club president. Rotary clubs are our motto, service above self. We go out, lines is bigger here, I know. Rotary's a little bit little and only, but our motto is service above self, and we go out as business leaders throughout the community and try to do good in different places. We help Nourish Now, which was, from when I met Brett, he was having frozen chickens in the back of a Accord. Now they just opened a 500,000-pound food facility on Goody Drive. And we supported them all those 10 years, from just funding it to volunteer service and stuff like that. And I'm proud to say I'm the president of the Rockville Rotary Foundation, and we give out $30,000 a year roughly to nonprofits, to these little small companies, small nonprofits similar to small businesses that are ignored by the county until the county picks them up and helps them get to their next levels. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, I have to stand up. I think it's the preacher in me. It's just I don't know how to think and talk without standing up. You know my name. I've been a pastor for 22 years. I'm the executive director of a nonprofit called the Equity Center. We serve the community. That's what I've been doing for many years as a public servant, and trying to do whatever we can to support and to strengthen, and whether it's the private, it's the public, but it's all about building up the community together. And so when I was asked to consider running for county council, while I had never ran previously for public office, as I thought about it, like, you know what, this is a logical extension. This is a good way for me to continue to be able to serve in the ways that I know how best to do, and I have a passion and a zeal and a vision so to do. So I am the wife of Aaron. I've been married for 28 years almost this summer. We have 7 children, don't gasp. But it is that's always one that people kind of get shocked at. And we've raised them all here in Montgomery County. They've gone to Gaithersburg High and Montgomery College. We understand what it is, the challenges to raise a family here, to be able to navigate the public schools, to be able to navigate the educational system, the market, the economy, and everything else. And so for me to be able to offer myself as a county council member felt like made a whole lot of sense. And so I appreciate this time and opportunity to get to know you. I look forward to you to get to know me. And now that we've had a chance to make formal introductions, and appreciate the informality, Fred, of just allowing us to, take a step back and do this. So thank you.
Okay, here comes the overture after the opening number. So I am Dawn Lupke. I am a resident of Ashton. I am a mother to 4 children. They are 14, 13, and 10. So they all attend Montgomery County Public Schools. So we have a very busy, active household with lots of activities. And I've been a lawyer for 22 years. My career in public service started prior to even going off to college when I interned for my congressman, and that's when I first became interested in someday serving in elected office. And after college, working for a nonprofit legal group on public health work related to the tobacco litigation. And now currently, for the past 9 years, I've worked for the Office of the Attorney General. And my portfolio of work there involves education policy, public safety, public health, specifically mental and behavioral health issues. And I also do specific assignments for the Maryland Department of Emergency Management, the Food Systems Resiliency Council, that's statewide, and our Maryland Institute for Emergency Medical System Services. As a specific initiative within the AG's office, I also work on hate crimes and hate bias, community outreach and engagement, and law enforcement training. I train law enforcement officers statewide on a number of issues, and I'm certified by the Maryland Police Standards Training Commission. So I decided to run for the county council position specifically because I've had so much experience at the state level on a wide variety of topics, including government operations, transparency, and procurement. And I wanted to take that and be able to focus it locally here, where you all have had great needs that have been unaddressed for a very long time. Thank you.
I'm not a preacher, but I was trained in the theater, as was Dawn, although she didn't mention that part of her backstory, which I love that we have in common. So I'm Jacqueline Manger. You learned a little about what I'm doing now, University of Maryland, teaching entrepreneurship after a 20, almost 30 career in industry. Didn't mention that I was a CEO of a fintech startup stuck in between some of those jobs. So I really know how hard it is to start something and make it grow. Moved here to the county almost 20 years ago with my husband when he was hired by Doug Duncan to work for the county government. I've raised my children in this community. First we lived in Rockville and then in Olney. And I hit the ground running, serving my community. I was working in DC first, then we moved the business out to Bethesda. And service in my community is how I connected with my community. Early on, I was on the board of the Arts and Humanities Council, where I eventually rose to be the chair. I very much appreciate that it was mentioned that this place is a business. Arts and culture is an economic driver, absolutely, in our community. We did one of the first big studies at the Arts and Humanities Council with Americans for the Arts and talked about the millions of dollars that we bring into the local economy. I'm currently on the board of the Olney Theater Center. Really proud of the work we've done for the last couple of years steering that institution through the pandemic. I'm on their executive committee. Little known fact, that is like the second largest in headcount employer in this region. Everybody thinks of the hospital. We employ a lot of people at the Olney Theater Center, not payroll-wise, but headcount-wise. So service to me is volunteerism and these, this board stuff that I've explained to you. And I have models for it growing up, my mother, my grandmother, public servants, appointed and elected. So this desire to serve and this craving to serve and this pride of service has always been in my life, and running for office is really the extension of that. I'm looking forward to answering more questions where you guys, I think, are going to find that I have a unique mixture of public and private expertise to be really, really effective representing this regional council. Thank you.
Good afternoon again. My name is Paul Geller, proud Olney, and it's very nice to be here among small business leaders and small business owners. I'm a product, I'm actually the fourth generation in my family to have a small business. My great-grandfather, Benjamin, actually was a builder in Philadelphia, and one of his first contracts outside of Philly was in Chevy Chase to build homes. So when I decided to move here about 30 years ago in 1991, it felt like, in a way, I was coming back home. This was a very unusual community in Montgomery County. It was well-educated, it still is. It has great schools, has great people, obviously. Even if you're working for the other side, they're great people. And people strive to get ahead. People strive to really fit in a wonderful community that's a melting pot. It's very similar to where I grew up in New York, and I love it here. One of the things that really struck me and why I wanted to run was after being a leader of the county PTA, I was county PTA president, 40,000 plus member organization, I realized that when you work with the county council members and you're reasonable in your requests, you can make amazing things happen. And a lot of the schools that I represented, they felt like they had no voice. They felt like they were the underdog. And as I talked to people, such as Nancy Florines and Roger Berliners, and people used to say things like, you can't access them, they're not readily accessible to you. I did, and I very plainly told them what we needed, and they gave it to us. It resulted in a record education first budget. It resulted in Chromebooks for our kids that were invaluable. Now let's take that same talent and put it to work for you. We have a great community here. You help make it vibrant, and I really ask for your vote, your support moving forward. Thank you.
My name is Paul Schwartz, and as I mentioned, I've been a resident of Rockville for more than 25 years. The basis of my campaign is that I combine federal, state, and local government service, and I think that is a unique experience that, especially this time, with the connection to the federal government is so important. I was the Director of Trade Enforcement for the Customs Service. Then I moved on to Homeland Security when that was stood up to help integrate 26 disparate federal agencies under the one umbrella. Not an easy task. It requires buy-in. Then I moved to, after Katrina, I moved to Katrina, where it was my responsibility to work with the state and local governments to identify vulnerabilities prior to the next event, not during. And all of that is important because it leads to buy-in. But the reason I'm running is because I get things done. And Senator Zucker, I think you can vouch for me that I was instrumental in tax relief for the seniors in Maryland, working on it for how many years for your committee. So we finally got it done, and we did see some tax relief. And that tax relief that we had passed unanimously in the last session in Annapolis is critical because tax relief also has to come to the small business owners, as we mentioned. So as again, tax relief is key, because what happens when you don't? The businesses move to Virginia, and the seniors retire to Delaware and Pennsylvania. They don't go down, they may go down to Miami for the weather, but they don't go to Delaware for the weather. And every time we lose a business or we lose a senior, they take their tax money, their buying power, and their community service with them. And we can't afford that. We want to expand the tax base. We don't want to have to raise taxes on the tax base that exists. So, and the other thing I'll mention is that, so my post-career career was as an advocate. That was one example. Also, I was the mayor of my column in the Montgomery County Sentinel each week, during which time I wrote about many of the issues relative to the members of this community. And so that's my, I'll take it up on question two.
All right. I didn't hear Fred mention it when he did his intro, but we were going to start the next question with candidate number 2. Go 2 through 6, finish with 1. Okay. All right, so for candidate number 2, what is your plan to streamline the permitting process, making existing business renovations and new businesses easier?
Yeah, so Fred has already done a really fine job of articulating how problematic the process is right now. Although I think he got more than 2 minutes to articulate it. But listen, I get it. We tried to start up a coffee shop in Gaithersburg. I went through the process in order to get the necessary permits and inspections. I heard the buzz that this is a very difficult, laborious process, and there were challenges. But in so walking through that and learning what it takes, what the average small business owner and leader is having to work through, it helped me to both understand as well as to navigate. And as well, I came to understand that, okay, even though the reputation is problematic, there are people who are trying to make a difference. So I met the director of the permitting department of the county. Her name is Mitra Podayam. She's fairly new. She's been in her position for about 3 years. And what I found out is that she's bringing fresh energy. She's bringing fresh ideas. She's trying to bring change into her department. We need to work with people like her. We need to help her to accomplish these things because at the end of the day, there's a lot of similarity in our goals. We want to spur business. We want to help small business. But instead of working against one another, we have to work together to do that. And part of that means we do have to put in those streamlining rules and policies and get that off of the backs of small businesses. And so the red tape and the bureaucracy, and that's a big part of why I'm running, because we've had a lot, in my work as a nonprofit director, we work with the county a lot. And in so doing, you learn the areas that need greater efficiency. And certainly in the permitting and the regulations, this is a key one. And so I will work with Mitra. I'll work with the other departments in order to bring those necessary improvements. Thank you.
Right on cue. Beats of everything.
Lucky.
All right. So we're all very aware of the problem, particularly as it relates to small businesses. But this is a problem that infects all aspects of our government operations. I don't view it as unique to just the permitting process. We have very cumbersome and tedious, complicated methods of service delivery in this county. And so I don't think that we should look at it just in a vacuum with respect to one topic or one issue. We have to get at analyzing why that is. And one of my pet peeves, I have a lot of them, I have a list, I could give them to you. One of my pet peeves in government currently at the state level is when you say, why is it that you do it that way? We've always done it that way. Well, you don't need to do it that way. Why is this requirement here? What was it for? Well, we used to, okay, but does it need to be here now, right? It is not sexy, attractive, or interesting to have to go through and audit government processes and government policies. It's not. That's not the work that gets an Instagram and a tweet and whatever. That's not fun. I love that stuff. But I want to fix that stuff because at the end of the day, you're spending a lot of taxpayer dollars for government staff and for programs and services that aren't meeting the needs of those who are seeking them out, if they even know to seek them out. Where are those gaps? What can we do better? What systems are not talking to each other, right? Technologically speaking, we have a lot of opportunity here to grow and develop. And a county of our size can't afford to be left behind in terms of the technology deployed to deliver government services. And we are already way behind, and we have to make every effort to go aggressively at remedying that so that we are not, as you say, stuck with somebody in vacation in a cubicle or somebody's email that didn't get answered and then you're nagging for 2 months to get follow-up. That's unacceptable. And so my promise to you is to always hold people accountable for that and to look at the ways to fix and remedy that across all sectors. The brownies are done.
So there's been a lot of the good background introduced about what this problem is now. But I'd like to sort of level the playing field and let you guys understand what our role is if you elect one of us. hopefully me, to be your next representative. We don't run the county executive's government. We don't run permitting services. That's not our job. So we have to understand what our levers are. So while I appreciate that Dawn, and I'm wonky too, wants to get in the weeds there, where we'll have to spend our time is looking at the budget that county executive gives to us and see if it reflects what we want to see changed in the government, which is streamlined services. Is there a line for retraining those unionized employees that we're not going to be able to let off, especially those of us that have gotten endorsements from those public service unions? They're clearly not going to be able to be laid off. So creating efficiencies and streamlining is difficult to do. That's what I'd like to explain to everybody. But that's our job, is to put the pressure on, use our political will, look at the budget and say, does the budget reflect our values? Does the budget reflect the change we want to make? So permitting services is a microcosm of the inefficiencies in our government. There are people running, the county executive that's running, David Blair, has talked about making, I love accountability, Dawn, inspectors accountable. His idea is that they would actually pay a small business for messing up along the way. I'd love to explore that. Don't know if we really have the money to deliver on that promise, but wouldn't that be great if there was actually teeth in that accountability? And the other thing is fire code enforcement. It's the one big thing I hear people talk about all the time. Inspect, 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 fire code, end of the road, walks around and drops mic and leaves, and you have hundreds of thousands of stuff to fix and walls to rip out, and they have no accountability. We need to fix that. We really need to fix that and streamline their role with the rest of permitting services and stop the patronage service that it is and really recognize it for what it is. Thank you.
Let me ask you a question. We've been asked 4 questions. It was very nice to get those in advance, so thank you. If you provided lousy customer service to your customers and clients, what do you think would happen?
Out of business.
Yes.
Out of business. Department of Permitting Services, I submit to you, is giving lousy customer service on an almost biblical level. And I tell you, as somebody who likes getting deep into issues that affect my constituents, as your council member, you come and complain to me, they're going to have lightning and thunder on them to change their ways and straighten up and fly right. And I'll tell you why. More than 90% of the businesses in Montgomery County employ 50 or fewer people. You are the lifeblood of this place. Kinder Design, you are the lifeblood. Everyone here is the lifeblood here. As somebody who grew up in a small business, I know how hard my mother worked to put food on the table. What am I going to do to make sure that this happens? In their charter, they say that they're supposed to be providing timely, professional, transparent, and consistent review and processing of plans. They're not doing that right now. I'm going to make sure that we have plans in place, like they have in Denver, like they have in San Francisco, where you go online and there's a 12-step process that you follow, and everything is outlined for you. You can use it on your mobile device, but you know exactly where you go from step 1 to step 2 to step 12 to get your business from the idea to the grand opening. That's what I want. I won't accept anything less. Now, how will we do that? Your input. I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but we're going to want your input from the start. I'm always going to be there to listen to you, and I'm going to advocate for you relentlessly.
Hi again. We mentioned before about the streamlining process, and that's the number one thing on everyone's. The one thing everyone in this room could agree on is that the permitting process needs to be streamlined. Everyone that I spoke to, small businesses around the county and the district, all agree permitting. So I mentioned before about some of the things that to me are easy things to address. Got to build in a turnaround time. Now there may be resistance to that, but it's required, it's necessary. And then creating that business czar I mentioned before, or ombudsman, who can actually walk the new small business through the process and have enough teeth to make sure that anything along the way that is not appropriate or should be changed or should be addressed gets addressed at that point in time, and not to wait and wait and wait. I mentioned before about going through the process with several entities and then having to wait for the second entity to return from vacation. To me, that's a no-brainer. As I'm campaigning and running for these, I get hit with these issues and questions, and my reaction is, why not, or why haven't we done that yet? Why haven't we fixed it? It seems so simple. And I know, with my own experience as advocating and working for the government, there's always resistance. But that should not be a game breaker. The number one thing, if there was one on the list that should be done, and it's the most important, is we have to build transparency into the system. It's not there. Again, why not? What is being hidden? So that is something that we have to advocate for and make sure it happens. And I think I'm going to end on that note. Can I yield my time to my next question?
20 seconds. So I guess everyone's fine with the permitting. We can just move on. We can all go home. Just kidding. So I'm a solutions-oriented person. I like to try to look at the solutions and what we can solve with legislation. We are a legislative body. We can legislate. We can't implement. The implementation is going over to the county executive. So one of the things which I really support, it's similar to what Paul Schwartz was saying, but a little bit different. And that is, I don't believe in a czar person on top overseeing everything, doing everything. I believe we need more people on the ground level getting the work done. And what I would propose is more of a small business navigator. So similar to your construction project, you're having your own project manager working on a construction project, there should be a small business navigator that's helping you on the inside, who knows the ins and outs of these organizations, so that they're helping you navigate through the cumbersome bureaucracy that we all know is there. We, as the county council, can't change that bureaucracy, but we might be able to grease the wheels by finding someone that actually understands it, can work through it, and can get things done. So those people, right now there's only one of those. We definitely need to discuss how we expand that. We definitely need to discuss how we can get more of those people in the disenfranchised and minority groups. And these people should have connections with not only permanent services, but out the funding, different sources they can get funding-wise, whereas the Green Bank, or if it's Wells Fargo, has special programs for XYZ business. PNC may have a special financing for this business, and navigate them through the process. One of the things I was thinking about, and thank you for bringing up the fire code problems, because every small business is having that. My thought to help solve that is have the code inspector come before you build the walls. Have them tell you what you need. So when they go through the last part, it's a check or what the heck were you thinking? I told you the wall shouldn't be there. So if they do it beforehand and they do a pre-inspection, then the post-inspection, it's done. You're not wasting $200,000 because they said what they wanted in the first place. And then, of course, they'll be held accountable if things change in the 3 months to build it.
Okay, so before we get started with question 3, do any of you need water? Fred asked me to ask you.
That's fine.
Nobody?
Okay.
We're good.
Everybody's good? Okay. So we're going to start with
Cocktail, though.
cocktails. I'm sorry you have to wait.
It's 5 times.
You need more to
It's happy hour.
So we're going to start with Dawn this time. So what role should the county council members do to support our local businesses, especially the area's small and boutique businesses?
So I want to follow up on something I said before I answer this, just because the legislative body does have the power to repeal, strike, or amend legislation. So to the extent that something is useless, we don't need it. We would have that power to change that, right? With respect to our small and boutique businesses here in District 7, and I said this earlier, but I think that it is incumbent upon our elected officials to be a voice for that and to be an advocate for those businesses and to help when they see opportunities through their own connections and their own work around the county to partner and help put those businesses in touch with one another to help grow them. I think that it's incumbent upon the local elected officials to patronize those businesses, to support them. Like Jacqueline, I'm also on the board of directors at Olney Theater, and our arts community and our recreation programs here are vital. We have a lot of great opportunities to combine recreation, arts and entertainment, and our local food and beverage businesses as well as shops together in terms of building this as a more of a destination location. It is a different space than Silver Spring, than Bethesda, than Rockville. And I'm proud of the fact that it's a different space. This is a good thing. This is unique. This is what makes us interesting. And so I feel like it's our job to do our best to advocate that, promote events that are going on in the area, participate in those events as members of the community.
My turn.
Your turn.
Sure, thank you. So yes, as a council member, we have a natural platform, right, to bring visibility to the community that we represent. And I'm a maximizer. If you know the Strengths Finder Gallup poll, I'm a maximizer. I love to shine a light on good things and good work. So I think that's a huge role, a part of the role of a county council member. A continued relationship with this chamber as it grows and expands. I was at Waradeka the other night and saw a lot of you there. Actually had somebody tease me and say, after you win, are you gonna keep coming back? And I'm like, I'm gonna come back more after I win. Like, if people read about me and learn about me, a big part of my platform is, and the number one priority is we need to expand the economy in this county. We need to expand jobs and good paying jobs. But we're not going to be able to do all the rest of the things that we care about as a community. Amazing schools, giving treasure to arts and culture institutions. So that's my lead, if I had, a spear to go through my work. I've been thinking already about how to configure my council staff. And we've heard about this idea of business navigator. I'm thinking that one of my staff will be sort of a small business navigator, because it's my natural instinct to be within the community, talking to people. I want somebody that speaks that language. And if we can't make it happen right away through the executives branch, the people of D7 will have somebody in their corner on my council staff to be doing a lot of the stuff that we've already heard about. A lot of Democratic Party thinks business is bad. They do. They think business is bad. Business is good. I believe in the goodness of business if you follow the work that I do at the University of Maryland. It's how we lift all boats together. It's how we create a more perfect world. If you want more equity, if you want more equality in a lot of things, business is one way actually to attain it, because you bring prosperity to people. So I'm done, because I think I just heard it out. Thank you.
I think the top couple of things that I can do as a council member, first of all, would be to patronize your businesses, just as I've been doing for many, many years as a member of the community. I can't tell you how many vet bills I've enjoyed paying because they've taken good care of my pets here in the community. How many wonderful shops I've been to buy presents for my kids and my wife. How many interesting people I've met throughout the way who are business owners who are striving to get ahead and live the American dream. And this is what I love. This is why I love living in a local community. It's unique, it's different. We have wonderful communities adjacent to us. We have Sandy Spring, Ashland, Williamsville. It goes through the whole list. I love it here. One of the other key things that we can do is we can listen to you. You know your needs better than anyone. And I will be there to listen to you constantly, always. I'll be showing up at events. I'll be walking through the community. My wife likes to joke. If she needs a gallon of milk and she goes to the store, it's going to take her 15 minutes. If I go to the store, it's 2 hours minimum. And why is that? Well, first of all, I do have to shop around and see what they've got that's interesting. But mostly it's because people pull me aside, they'll tell me something that's going on in the community, and they'll ask me, what can they do about it? They want help with advocacy, they want an idea of who they should talk to or who they can complain to. When you're a good civil servant, that's your passion. That is my passion. I love listening to what people's needs are and then trying to meet them. I mean, Colleen, you're here, you do a young woman's job with GOCA and for many years. You listen to the needs of the community. That's why you're so popular. You too, Matt. And I think that's something that I want to take to heart, something I want to deliver to you.
Breaking news. Nobody in this room has had an advocate on the county council. No matter which one of us gets elected, finally, you're going to have an advocate on the county council. What does an advocate do? They're going to fight business district, participate in outreach and marketing to the small business community, both the ones that are here and the ones we'd like to attract, and to address issues, to raise issues as far as timeliness and cost. And also, the county council controls the budget, so invest in small businesses and make startup loans more available, and use tax incentives to attract business investment. As I mentioned before, when businesses go elsewhere, they take their jobs, their tax base with them. And the other thing I want to mention on the first two questions is we need to actually have a formal review of the process. Clearly, we're all in agreement that there's a problem here. That's the whole discussion we've had today. So a problem has to be fixed. So have a formal review of the entire process, but include both public and private involvement. Not just we do it, but to get your voices into the process. Unlike Project 2050, that's another issue. So that's key. But again, as I mentioned before, it's building transparency into it, and we have a lot of responsibility to be able to oversee how you guys are being treated and how we can fix the problem from our leverage on the county council. Thank you.
Okay, so when the pandemic started, my family generally went out to eat maybe once every 2 weeks. We were kind of counting the chips. My daughter's about to go to college. We weren't, we were more focused on her education and getting that money there. When the pandemic hit, we made a conscious decision to keep 3 or 4 of our local restaurants alive. I mean, we consciously went, I live in Durwood, so I'll admit that it wasn't Grill Marks. I think someone else got them open. Jasmine Cuisine is a great restaurant that's in the air park, and I promoted it with all of our friends, everything over there. There's a great catering company that started delivering stuff in there, as well as that company was donating a lot of their food. They give their food away. And then Lido's, everyone loves Lido's. My Lido's stayed open, thank goodness. And then there's a place called Asian Gourmet down where we live. So our goal was to keep our local businesses, make sure that they had the business, promote it to all my son's friends. Make sure we had those continued having the monthly things with our PTA, because our PTAs always support our local businesses, and just worked with the local businesses to figure out how, my local communities to figure out how to keep our local businesses that we all loved and cherished around. Collaborations is another great example. Working, marketing with our local, you do a great job, by the way, of the local magazine.
Thank you.
The local magazine. It's a great way to get the businesses out there and collaborating. One of the things that I reflect, and again, soccer coach, been doing it all my life. One of the things I've talked about with the English guys is one of the things they finally brought to OBGC was food trucks. Brilliant. You can't get food there because it's so busy. And the next step further, which is a potential thing that parents would love, especially after their kid loses 8-0, is getting them a liquor license. You don't know how it is when a kid loses 8-0. And in other countries, it is like that. It's an event. It's not just a game. And to have those things could help.
So there's a lot to criticize with Montgomery County, and we all have our criticisms for sure, and yeah, that could spend a lot of time. However, I also believe in giving credit where credit is due. I'm a little surprised that none of the other candidates here this evening has mentioned the local small business reserve program. How many of you are familiar? Okay, some of you are not. Everyone should know about this in the county. Now, this may be a criticism for the county as well, as outreach, right, and communication. However, the local small business reserve program requires that 25% of the county's procurement go to small business, to local small business in the county. That's a great idea. That works. Buy local, support local. Buy in the county, support the county. We need to applaud that. This is the type of good ideas and innovation and good policy that we need to encourage and we need to improve. Now, with that said, in answer to this question, you can't talk about this in terms of what we're able to do as council members without talking about revenue and taxes, because when the tax burden is onerous upon business, it's going to obviously create problems. We need to lighten the load. And part of the way that we're going to lighten the load is by making government more efficient and accountable. Do you realize that this past year, the debt service of the county is $460 million. We went up by $11 million this year in the midst of all of this federal money that came down into our county. The state increased their revenue with a surplus of over $70 billion. Somehow we added $11 million to our debt. Well, that debt is money. That money, that inefficiency, needs to be invested into the county, into the services, into the programs, into the local businesses. And by doing that, that's what's going to make the changes. And so that's exactly that. That was one of the big reasons why I decided to run.
Thank you. And so this starts with John. The Greater Olney businesses have been ignored for many years. We feel that we've been ignored for many years. How do you plan to raise our profile and differentiate us from, example, Silver Spring, Rockville, Bethesda, and provide our areas with more small business opportunities?
So I'll take a two-pronged approach, Matt. First, I would like us to examine and think about leveraging something called the Business Improvement District enabling legislation. This was Maryland state legislation that came out in about 2017. Silver Spring actually had an urban zone, and now in just 2021, they passed one of these business improvement districts. I think the greater Olney area would be a great place to look at this, right? And so it's a special tax district. The government doesn't pass it. The local businesses vote and decide whether they want to. But the money stays among that district and can be used communally to promote that district, right? Through marketing, make it a destination. So, and leverage that money to build partnerships amongst the people who are in that area. I would like us to look at that. Another thing I'd like to examine is how does Visit Montgomery currently view our region of the county, right? And maybe reimagine how they are. I've done a little work here, right? We have the Tastemakers Trail and the Agricultural Reserve that are being promoted, but they're really kind of disparate when you look at the website. They also call us Mid-Up County. There isn't even a name, right? It's Mid-Up County. They feature Bethesda, they feature Silver Spring, they feature Wheaton. So we have some marketing to do as a group. This Visit Montgomery there is basically a promotion arm. CEO Kelly Groff runs it. It's about $2.1 million of our $6 billion budget. It's not a lot of money, but we should be getting some love and attention for that, and marginally maybe add to that to make sure that we are being recognized. And that's a good group. This very museum, their marketing people leverage it. In fact, are quoted on the website talking about how it's been a good thing for them to be promoted through Visit Montgomery. So I think those are two ways. They're just ideas how I would raise our profile and bring more small business opportunities to our area.
There's a lot of good things that we can do here to make Olney, Sandy Spring, Ashland community extra special and publicize our uniqueness. One of the things that we've really seriously underutilized is cable TV Montgomery. You don't see a lot of features about what's going on in our area. Not only some of the magical things, the Strawberry Fest, Olney Days, all these wonderful events. We need to feature these. You know, as someone who's worked with those folks, I would make sure that we would get out here and start focusing on some of the uniqueness in our community. We're also the only community, by the way, that has we're about to have our third school that has solar panels on it. Out of all 17 schools in the county, 3 are right here, thanks to a lot of hard advocacy on my part to make sure that happens. Another thing that I want to emphasize is that a few years ago, Craig Rice, who's council member, he had a wonderful ag reserve for him. He invited everyone in the community to come out and see all the wonderful uniqueness of the ag reserve. He had it at the universities at Shady Grove. There he had farmers, he had people that produced products in the ag reserve, he had the ag extension folks. He wanted people like me, who's not a farmer, to come and see and learn about the uniqueness of the ag reserve. Now we have a similar event for Olney businesses right now. I want to expand it to make sure that all District 7 small businesses have a place at the table where not only can they showcase their businesses, but also they can talk directly to people from the Department of Permitting Services. They can talk directly to council members and their staff. They can get their issues addressed and understood. And it's a great idea to also have as an idea exchange, because you never know who you're going to meet. It's just like coming to an Olney Chamber of Commerce event. You exchange information, you learn a lot about this. Finally, I also want to emphasize the importance of being accessible. I want to be there for you. I want to be there to be able to answer your questions, to help address issues. John, maybe you have something that's important. You come up and you ask me, I'm happy to oblige.
Okay, we are your representative. That means that we really have to get involved and not sit in an office in Rockville or others did in Wheaton. We have to get involved. That means joining forces with the Olney Chamber of Commerce to really focus on the marketing. That's what really is the missing piece. There is marketing, and we have to join forces. As a representative of you and also of the county council, we work together to do that marketing. But something came to my attention, which I thought was interesting. On this campaign trail, I've met with various chambers of commerce, and somebody suggested, why not have a county chamber of commerce that then can coordinate all the other chambers of commerce so that we don't get left out when Rockville or Silver Spring, they seem to be getting most of the attention. So maybe having somebody to coordinate that better, we have a better chance of being part of the game. But even without that, we've got the ag reserve, and that's a big part of this county, this district of the county, and that's an important piece. And we should not be stepchildren to the rest, to Silver Spring or Rockville, and it's required the representative to make sure that that doesn't happen. We're working in conjunction with the chambers of the Olney Chamber of Commerce. I'll yield the rest of my time to.
Oh, thank you. Oh, wow. Nice. So marketing is a big issue, and the two things I wrote down that are essential are uniqueness and identity. Being all these different floating names, being all that, we need to come together as a community, figure out what makes Olney unique, what gives us identity, and how we can market that in a laser-focused way to bring people to the community. If we're just, the sleepy commuter town up there in the mid-upper county region, that doesn't really attract people. I'm not going to the mid-upper county region to do anything. I mean, let's get serious. So we got to promote what's special. We got to promote the breweries, because there's no brewery downtown that I know that has grassy space where you can enjoy yourself, that you can be outside when the pandemic's more on the rise and people are afraid to be around people. They don't have that here. Someone mentioned it already, the Strawberry Festival, wonderful event. That's a unique event. I mean, other communities have parades, but they don't have the Strawberry Festival. They don't have the rich history that this area has. This history of this museum in and of itself, and all the history that we have here that we can use to attract people here. So the uniqueness of this area needs to be expressed and needs to be marketed in order to bring people here. We have to have that unique laser focus and approach that want to bring people here. And we also have to, one of the things we have to do is work on the transit systems to bring people here, because there are some people downtown that honestly believe that the only way you can get around the county is through subway and bus. And I know we struggle with our bus system to come up here at a good rate. So those are the main points I would like to bring. And I'd also like to point out is we're not Bethesda, we're not Rockville, we're not Silver Spring. And we've got to reflect that in how we market to the rest of the county. Thank you.
The name of the nonprofit that I run is called the Equity Center. And so I'm regularly answering the question, what does equity mean? What does that look like, right? Well, I think one thing that we all could agree with here is that the history of the county has been inequitable in regards to its investment of the parts of the county. And the down county has gotten a significant larger portion of investment than has the up county, and Olney is feeling that as well. And so part of what we have to do is we have to work towards equity. And so District 7 and the representation and the work that the council member will do will be working for exactly that. Now, in answer also to this question, though, it's I think about my friend Jim Lutz, because Jim is on my he's on my kitchen cabinet, campaign kitchen cabinet. He's a small business owner. He owns and operates Arena Graphics over there in Air Park. And I actually spoke to him today, kind of just like, hey, I want to get your thoughts on the Chamber's forum today. And he's like, Ben, here's the thing. This is what I would do. We need to work on collaboration. We need to work on partnership. We need to work on beautification, drawing positive attention to the business community and the business sector of these places, like Olney, like Damascus, and other places. And so what Jim does actually is he, as a private citizen, as a small business owner, he is working with his community leaders to beautify downtown Damascus. See, what we have to be able to do is work with the different partnerships, the different stakeholders. And that includes the part that I can play, that we can play as public servants, as elected officials, using the machine of government and policy to be able to serve the mutual good of the community. That's exactly what I plan to do, and I'm learning a lot from people like Jim, small business owners, who are getting it done in his community, and I look forward to learning from you all on how we can get that done here in Olney.
I'm taking a cue from Ben. I'm finally getting out of my chair. Now, it's closing argument time, right? And I got the last word, so I'm going to stand up. One of the things that impressed me so much about the most recent Olney Days events, it rained buckets, right? A lot of us were extremely wet. That's okay. You know what was awesome? People stayed out there on those sidewalks in the rain. They stayed. They came. They stayed, because this community has a tremendous amount of pride, and we need to capitalize on that. And you now have the opportunity to have someone who is a captive advocate for you in that regard to capitalize on that, right? And so, whether we are the mid-up county, or I had used some term that somebody said, oh, are you a Game of Thrones fan? I said, no, I don't even know what that means, but I called it the Great Northern Region or something like that. And they're like, oh, I don't know, I've never seen it. We're the land of beer farms, right? We are the land of beer farms. We have the Olney Theater, one of our 2 state theaters, right? Along with Center Stage in Baltimore. That is a historic property. This is a historic property. We have many historic properties. We need to emphasize tying together the resources and the gifts that we have here, both within our business community, within our historical sites, within our arts and cultural sites, and within our recreational sites together. And that's the job of your representative, to help you tie all that together and make it work and market it. There has been a disproportionate, or should I say, complete ignorance and lack of communication at the county level with respect to the treasures that are up here. And that's got to change. And I think it's incredibly noticeable that on every Twitter feed that the council has, that it's focusing on down county. That stops. Now it's time to focus up here, right? We have a lot to offer. It's our job to speak that and share that. Thank you.
All right, so we have a few more minutes left, and I think we'll take a few questions from the audience here. And it turns out that the president of the chamber has a question.
No way. Put him on the clock. 2-minute question.
Great. Presidential prerogative.
My question is fairly simple. Several of you have mentioned that county council needs to engage more with the greater Olney area. My question back to you is, what more can the Olney Chamber of Commerce do to engage with county council?
We'll start with Paul.
That's an excellent question.
Yeah, that's what we want to do.
We got Paul and Paul.
That's what it is.
Paul or the other Paul?
Here's what we need to do.
You're using up your time.
We have to work together, and you have to keep, make sure, if I'm the guy on the council, I need to be made aware of all the issues facing the community. All right, when I went out and I spoke to small businesses, they point out things like even, who's the thing, I'll tell you in a second. Use and occupancy. They raised that to me, I didn't know what that was until they explained it. But the requirements for that are so stringent and so cumbersome, they need to be eased up. They also talked about the fact that some of the work plans, I think it was, the old master plans, they said it's about, they're outdated, they need to be updated. So keeping me as your voice on that council, or whoever is elected on that council, that is the critical relationship that we have to have, all right? So that is an ongoing communication between the issues of the community and the representative on the council.
Mr. Geller.
My goal as your council member would be to make Montgomery County and District 7 a better place to live, work, and learn in. And probably the best way I can do that for everyone in this room is to be constantly accessible. I'm going to come to your meetings with the chamber. I'm going to be in the community. I'm going to encourage you to reach out to me. You will have my cell phone. You will have my email address. You can contact me directly, and I will reply quickly to your issues. I want to make sure that we have a two-way street here. I also want to make sure, because you asked an interesting question, Fred, and that is, we were talking a few days ago about expanding the staff of the Chamber of Commerce. It would be nice to do that, because one of the first things I would suggest if we could do that is creating kind of a greater Olney card that you would use, and you could get discounts at area merchants who are part of the chamber, and it would encourage people both in the community and outside the community to come to Olney and Sandy Spring, shop here, enjoy the day, realize the great quality of life we have here, and really become active participants in this wonderful place that we have that's our community. And I think that's vital. So I want to be accessible. I want to be here to help with ideas. I want to help the Chamber of Commerce do their job. And I also, and it was alluded to earlier, I want to make sure as a council member in my social media feed, you actually see me patronizing your businesses. You see me touting your business elsewhere in the county and telling me about it. Because I have to tell you, and this is outside our community, but it's District 7, I am a huge fan of Jimmy Cone. If you've ever been to Damascus, you really should go to Jimmy Cone. It's amazing. I do that, and people come up to me all the time. They say, where is this? How do I get there? I want to do the same thing for our other businesses. Because you know something, when I love something, I want other people to know about it, and them to be helped as well. So.
All right, Andrew, and I apologize for not saying this earlier. Let's try to keep these answers to 1 minute.
Oh, 1 minute. Okay. I just have to tease, the back of my flyer is Jimmy Cone's. So as soon as you mentioned that, I had to take it out.
That's funny.
So the question is, I'll admit it, I'm a door knocker. I door knocked before. I door knocked her right before the meeting. The question, the thing I always say at the end of my door knocking is, read my material. Please tell me I'm wrong. I want to hear your voice. And I genuinely feel that way. And I appreciate it when people have that discussion. One of the members from your Olney community actually we had a nice push and pull about the environment versus roads and whether or not we need the roads on 270 or not, and whether we can find other options to reduce the traffic on 270. It's a nice, a nice discussion that needs to be had, that needs to potentially change voices. So I'm a genuine person when it comes to that. Another example is even with my 5th grade team, at the end of the game, we'll discuss the goods, the bads, the uglies. I'll say my piece. I open up for them because you guys are on a different part of the playing field than I'm on. You guys see the game differently. You guys vision the game differently. And I'm not going to say I know everything because I know I don't. This job, even for the most experienced person, I feel is like a fire hose. You're going to get the fire hose turned on, and a lot of things are going to blow you away, and you've got to really be an advocate for yourselves in some regards because, there's going to be a lot of balls to juggle. But I'm going to keep forms and things up here. One of the things that really irritated me about Craig Rice is he was my representative for a long time. He'd always have his educational forms down county. What are you doing? You represent up county. Why are you down county all the time? You don't hold forums up where your constituents are. Everyone mumbled, oh, he's running for county exec. Didn't happen. But it never made sense to me why he represents up here in down county. The final thing I'm going to leave you with, if I have a couple seconds, is
You really are.
I didn't see a light. I'm looking for the light.
He needs the light. He needs the
Where's the
light.
light?
Do we want to restate the question?
Sure, please.
Yeah, because it doesn't sound
Yeah.
like it's big answer. I know Dawn knows what the
So
question
the,
is. Dawn and I know what
so
the
the
question
We
question,
know what the question is, yes.
so I'm paraphrasing Fred's question. It's how are you going to engage with the chamber, the Olney chamber specifically?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking that an answer to your question is like, well, you want to know how to help the chamber really effectively. You could do what the leader of our chamber at Gaithersburg, Germantown, you could run for county council. So Fred, there you go. That could be a future calling for you. Outside of that, this is exactly what I would recommend. Civic engagement, business engagement, communication, relationship building, advocacy. That's where it begins. It's building partnerships, collaboration. So when I went to the Sandy Springs Civic Association Forum, I commended them for engaging with it. Listen, we're all going to remember this. And so when one of us wins this office, we're going to remember this engagement. We're going to remember this conversation, and we're going to remember you. And so, and I trust you'll remember us, right? But this is how it gets done, folks. And so I applaud you for doing this, and I think that this is what has to continue to happen in order to build that future.
And I hope you remember us well. So, my current practice with respect to how this would work in my own work currently is what I would bring to the council, and that is to say there should be standing regular meetings and standing regular communication with different stakeholder groups that are impacted within the community. It's not just a one-off type of thing. Those things should always, your door should always be open. The calls should always be returned. I know that wasn't what was happening before. I got it. Got that message loud and clear. But that is how I operate. I do return the calls. I will return your messages. I will take those individual one-on-one meetings. But for organizations with groups of stakeholders, I believe it's important to have set fixed times that work for that organization, that meet that organization's own structural needs, and work with the council and have those meetings for that type of engagement. If you're not having those check-ins with the boots on the ground, or with the people who are actually doing the work, the people who are actually feeling those pain points, you're going to be missing something.
So I would say, Fred, keep doing what you're doing. There's a bookshelf, if you guys have seen us all on Zoom, you have if you've been watching us, behind where I normally am, and there's actually an award that this chamber gave my husband, right? It was a very nice event for you guys. Those kind of events, keep them coming, the regular meetings. I promise you I will be there. It's a partnership. We just keep talking to each other. But keep the chamber vibrant. I mean, just over the course of the last 8 or 9 months, as you've engaged with the role that you're feeling because of this opportunity we all have to have a representative up here, I've watched your chamber flourish even more, right? Like you've upped your game with what you've been doing on social media and all the, ribbon cutting. So I just keep the momentum going. Let's keep talking. And as Dawn said, it's that, it's about accountability, right? The regular meeting, we hold each other accountable and we get things done.
I'll get back to one of you in July.
8 a.m.
So-
July 20th.
Or those of us who are still in Olney and run businesses.
It's 6 o'clock, right? We can be here till 7 or come all the way till 7. This was supposed to go for 90 minutes, so we've hit our 90-minute mark. I want to look at the audience, Fred, do we want to continue to we want to give them a chance to wind up? Yeah. And so I think that'll take us pretty close to.
You're all staying for afterwards?
I think some of you have events.
I have events.
Food, drinks, snacks.
He's gotta go do soccer. He's got soccer.
Yeah, I have a 7:30.
We'll let Ann ask one last question.
You gotta do it, man.
Hello, Ann.
46% of the registered voters in District 7 are not Democrats. What are you going to do to reach out? You know, our council treats people who are not Democrats terribly. We have no voice, yet we are the ones who collected the signatures that put on the ballot the referendum that ended up creating this district. We are the ones who did that during COVID. Matt, all of us did it, of all parties. That is what we bucked the Democrat system and created this district. Now, what are you going to do to help engage us in a nonpartisan effort to help this district? Because, you know, 45% of the district are not registered Democrats.
Can I answer that one?
Go ahead, Paul.
It was interesting, during the campaign, somebody complained to me that I did not identify myself as I'm campaigning as a Democrat. And the way he posed it made it sound like I was hiding something. And I gotta tell you, it never crossed my mind that I needed to do that because I'm running in a Democrat primary, but I'm running to represent the people of District 7. And as long as you have that mindset, and I'm sure all of us do, that should not be, I agree with you that they sometimes play up on the Democratic side, but that's not what we are, all right? And so my commitment is that I'm representing all of District 7, and that includes 16 different neighborhoods. And the issues in Damascus are different than the issues in Olney. And the issues in Montgomery Village are different than the issues in Durham. So one size does not fit all. But the one thing that is for all is that I'm representing everyone in the district and not just Democrats.
Andrew?
He did a very good job on that one. I'll commend him. That is what I'm running for. I'm running for 150,000 people, 110,000 adults. A lot of the things that we have going on in this county, I don't think are Democrat or Republican issues. I don't think, economic improvements, that issue. I don't think the fact that people have been neglected with our capital improvement projects, and our highest one in this district is ranked 61. I don't think that's a Democrat-Republican issue. I don't think moving the bus depot in Durwood is a Democrat-Republican issue. Most of the stuff that I'm promoting and I'm running on, I don't think saving the environment is a Republican-Democrat issue. I mean, some Republicans would prefer, gas and petroleum. But at the end of the day, we still need to save the environment. We need to make sure our carbon footprint's low. We need to learn we need to compost properly. We need solar panels to reduce our energy usage on fossil fuels. So that's what I look at.
I think both these men have done a good job of answering this question, and I really agree with so much what they said. When I'm talking to people, canvassing and going to events, there is a number of common themes, and this is one of the common themes. So I really appreciate the question, and that is the level of polarization and partisanship in politics, in government today. And it's just a sad state of affairs. It keeps us from being able to accomplish mutual goals. And 100% agree. Listen, we are all for public safety. We're all for improving the economy and the job picture. We're all figuring out transportation and affordable housing. Listen, these things are public good things. And so what we have to do is work on getting some of that partisanship out of the process in order to be able to move forward good policy. And that means we need somebody who can work together with a very diverse group of people. And that's what I've done in the past, and I look forward to doing that more.
So in my current role, I'm a special appointment at the state, not a special political appointment. I have to work in a nonpartisan fashion, and I do, and I have been for 9 years. My job is to serve the people. My job, if elected here, will be to continue to serve the people without regard to party affiliation. They joke because I met my husband because I was brought into his office for a meeting years ago, by the governor's staff. So he assumed I was a Republican because I was brought in by Governor Hogan's staff. But I'm not, because it wasn't about partisan work. It was about work. It was about policy. It was not partisan in any way, shape, or form. That's just how I've always been. My goal in being an advocate and my role in being an advocate is to serve the community. And so it's not with regard to that. I do believe firmly in continuing my existing work with respect to community engagement on reducing bias in our community. And I am committed to that because that is inherently necessary to the health and functioning and well-being of our whole community.
So, I've lived a somewhat public life since I moved to this county because of what my husband did. A lot of people know his role in the county, and we very purposefully tried to remain out of politics, even though he was brought in by a county executive. A lot of people were very surprised when I decided that I would run for county council that I was even a Democrat. I'm a very centrist Democrat. I've been pulled into this process because it's how you get elected in Montgomery County. You have to be a member of the party and you get elected in the primary. Or like one of our future opponents here, you run unopposed and you're gonna run against one of us. So I'll echo everything that's been said here. I engage with people as people. Although we have to do these panels, I'm really trying to stay out of politics. I want to serve my community. I want to serve everybody in my community and along our shared values.
How can I represent everyone? When I first moved here with my wife in 1991, I wanted to work on Capitol Hill, and I knocked on doors. And I naively thought if I knocked on any door of someone that I knew, maybe they would offer me a job or a position. One of the doors I knocked on was a Republican representative from the great state of Wisconsin. And I knew him a bit, but I was still a Democrat. And they asked me, what I was interested in, my background, and it fit perfectly. Then they asked me my party, and I told them, they said, there's no job here for you. I will never forget how that made me feel. And I've always used that to make sure that I never let anyone feel the same way that I felt that day. Like it or not, we're all Americans. I love this country. I love this country. I want to make it a better place. I love this country. I love everyone who's in it, who's here to work together to make it a better place. That's my job as your servant. That's my job as your council member. Serve all.
All right, Paul, why don't you, Paul Schaefer.
Paul Schaefer.
Paul, please, why don't you start your 2 minutes to close? We're going to finish this is the last question. I will go around in the same order. Andrew will be next, and down the line.
I'll close by telling you a little bit what my priority. People keep asking me, what are your top 3 issues? My top 3 issues I've identified as the word C, S-E-E. Safety, which includes school safety, gun safety, community safety, addressing the scourge of hate crimes, including also putting the SROs back in the schools, the environment, and balancing development within the environment. Especially in this area, one size does not fit all, but the key is I'm not against development, I'm against overdevelopment. We want to maintain the character of the communities we live in. And that's the way we want to set up our businesses, and that's the way we want to live in our homes. So we have to put that down. And then the third D is equity. And that comes with addressing the income inequality, but also comes with that tax fairness that I mentioned before. And that's tax fairness for the people who live here, but also the corporations. Because as I mentioned before, when people leave the state, whether it's Virginia for businesses or Delaware and Pennsylvania for retirees, they take a lot of the equity with them, and that impacts our economy. So we want to make sure that our revenue is from expanding the tax base and not by eliminating it. The other thing I'll mention is that I told you that I had a over 30-year career with the federal government. Then when I retired, and I didn't get into politics then because of, I'm not Ivanka Trump, you probably could tell, so I was limited by the Hatch Act. Once I got out, that's when I became an advocate. And one of the first things I worked on was the gun safety, working to get the Maryland's Firearm Safety Act of 2013 passed. That was my first thing. That's when I first met Jamie Raskin and Chris Van Hollen and Brian Frosch, Dawn's boss. And I was very proud that recently, I'll just end with this, that the Moms of Manhattan did designate me as a gun sense candidate. And I'll just mention one other thing. Mel Brooks also endorsed me in 1987 when he said, Baseballs, what did he say? May the Schwartz be with you.
I was waiting for that. Finally. I was waiting for that one. I was waiting.
Beat that one, Andrew.
I've been in for 3 months. That's the first time I heard that one. I told so many people he has the easiest punchline. Anyway, so service above self. That's been a motto. That's the motto of Rotary. That's the motto I've lived by. We have ethical standards we have to live by. We have to, is it beneficial to all concerned? Does it bring goodwill and friendship to all concerned? I am a publicly funded candidate. It took 6 weeks. You can ask Ben. It was, the state violated so many of their own laws. It was unbelievable. We've been through those situations. I'd invite you to look at who's donated to my campaign. It's not only Democrats. It's not politicians. It is people across the board. It is the people who told me I should run. I was very happy, on the other side of deals with Karen, negotiating for my client's best interest and trying to get real estate deals done. I was living a good life there. I enjoyed that life. But there was a deeper calling, and too many people called me to run. It wasn't a thing that was planned. I didn't schedule my life to come to do this. It was something where I feel I'm here, I can make the difference. I'm here to serve. I'm here to come and represent you guys to the best of my ability. I'm here, tonight's a business forum. Let's reduce those taxes. Let's make those small businesses achieve what they need to achieve. Let's eliminate this fire marshal, I'm changing things here to here, so you don't spend $200,000 of what you need to buy supplies to get business done. Let's get business done right, so people aren't moving their businesses from Montgomery County down to Virginia. Thank you very much.
I want to thank you, Olney Chamber, and everyone for coming here tonight, just taking up your valuable time in order to be able to interact and engage and listen to what we have to say here this evening. I'm a big fan of Olney. My oldest son we cut our teeth playing baseball with the Olney Pirates, and so we have been here a lot playing baseball, being involved with the community in lots of different ways. A big fan of the Brookville and Lone Oak beer farms, and so you'll probably see me there on occasion as well. And so it's a joy to be connected in this way with you here this evening. I was approached by the county actually, and back in 2020, to help meet needs on account of the pandemic that we were seeing in the village, Montgomery Village. It was just too much. There was way too much need. And so they saw that I was getting work done up there and serving the community. And so they said, hey, can you help us? And so, yeah, absolutely. What can we do? And so we started the Village Resource Center located at Lake Forest Mall. And since then, we have had the privilege of serving the community more than 2 million pounds of food to over 10,000 people in the community. We've untold resources, financial, health and wellness programs. And it's been a privilege. By the way, a little plug, we're going to have our 2-year anniversary of food distributions this Saturday. We've mobilized well over 500 volunteers in this community effort. I just want to recognize Edwidge here, who's our volunteer coordinator, who runs that operation. Yes. This is what we do. This is how we try to get things done. This is what I want to be able to do on county council. We're going to work together. I hope you notice the collegiality amongst the candidates. I hope that continues. I will certainly work to do that, because that's the only way we get things done is by working together. So thank you very much.
My top 3 areas that I am the most interested in as a person are the top 3 things that I work on currently. They encompass 70% of our county's budget, and that is public education, public safety, and public health. And so for me, I feel like taking all that I know from working on complex matters that cross different disciplines, that cross different sectors, that involve different stakeholders and involve different communities pulling together to make the right decisions, that I have the skill set to take that and bring that back to this body and bring that voice here to our district, a voice that's been missing for an incredibly long time. The council will have at least half of its members be new, no matter what, right? Just by virtue of how it is structured. And so I think it's critically important that we have individuals who are serving, who have broader policy knowledge, broader government experience and knowledge in order to figure out how best to navigate that so that we're not behind the 8 ball in getting things going and keeping things moving at a critical time in our county's history as we start emerging from the pandemic. I have also, in the nonprofit world, worked with helping keep businesses afloat, namely a very much smaller arts organization, the Baltimore Concert Opera, based in Baltimore City, but that does community outreach and education and programming all over the state. And it's very hard when you're trying to manage, you can't sing during the pandemic, right? And it's an art form that is maybe potentially inaccessible, right? But our whole goal is to build community through opera, of finding niche, interesting ways to bring that to the community and keep things going during the pandemic and making sure everybody stays in the black. I want to bring that kind of novel idea and approach to my work in the council.
Thank you, everyone. Again, I'm Jacqueline Manger. Manger for Montgomery. It's also the name of my website. Please learn more about me. I look forward to moving into that room so I can learn more about those of you that I don't already know about. I stated this earlier, I think unique among a bunch of really talented people up here, I have both public and private sector expertise. So in my years at the Arts and Humanities Council, I became pretty expert in the budgeting process from having a small piece and sitting before the committees and being with the county executive and negotiating for dollars in the CIP. So I'll hit the ground running in a district that has no incumbent. My business credentials, you can also find, it's all publicly available information. I believe that is really one of the most vital things that we need to work on as a county. I believe that pies can be grown. I do not want to see us shrinking and just taxing our way out of problems. We have to grow the pie. And we can, we definitely can. And that will be my focus so that we can maintain the world-class schools that we have, so that we can invest in our public safety and keep our public safety officers. We're having trouble doing that. And then keep the world-class amenities that we already have and build more of them in a more equitable way. When we do develop, when East County gets the kind of parks and the kind of love that we already have in this part of the county. When the other end, right near where Ben's set up, Lake Forest Mall gets its love soon, right? So I ask you to learn more about me, call me, talk to me. That unique mixture of public and private sector expertise is going to be really vital to the new council. It is going to be a lot of very new people. I get things done. I create partnerships to get things done, mixing the public and private. It's how I've been successful my whole life, and I'll just bring that to the council for all y'all's benefit. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
All right.
Whoa, Paul.
Another call.
The Paul bookends.
When I was a kid, my dad and I were walking down the street in New York where I grew up, and there was a crowd around an individual, and my dad was routinely like, "Paul, you know who that is?" I was 8 years old, so I didn't know pretty much anything unless it was like Reggie Jackson or somebody who's a hero of mine. He said, that's Jacob Javits. He's like, you know who Jacob Javits is? I said, I have no idea. And he said, he's a U.S. Senator. He's like, let's go over and say hello to him. So we walked over, the crowd kind of thin. And he bent down and he said, hello, who are you? And I said, I'm Paul Geller. Who are you? And he said, I'm Jake Javits, I'm your senator. And I said, oh, it's nice to meet you. And we exchanged a few words and then off he went. It left a lasting impression for me. From that moment on, I wanted to serve the public. I wanted to be an elected official. I'm unabashed about that. When my wife and I moved here 30 years ago, the economy was tough. And I kind of gave up on my dreams. I worked on Capitol Hill twice, but it just didn't look like it was going to be in the cards. I had some relatives who lived in Olney, and my grandmother's one of her last wishes, and I wear her ring to remind me of it all the time. One of her last wishes was that my wife and I moved to Olney, where my cousins were, and that my kids would attend Belmont Elementary School. I'll be darned. My wife and I moved to Olney. We moved into the Belmont catchment area. That little school changed my life because it put my career back on track. It made me realize what was important. My teachers felt forgotten about. It sounds like a familiar theme, huh, Fred? They needed some computers in their classrooms. Long story short, after about 18 months of work, we got everything that they ever wanted. But moreover, I got a love and an affinity for what the county council does here in Montgomery County. They really listen and they work for you. I certainly want to follow in that keen tradition. I want to be here for you. I want to help you make the magic happen. I never want you to ever feel like you're voiceless. You have a powerful voice, and I ask for your vote and support. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. A little bit of theater and live events like these. June 9th, there's going to be a final debate as far as this community is concerned. With Great Island Citizens Association, members involved, chamber members involved, county council advisory committee members involved, and that's going to be at your council. We've had an opportunity, many of us have had an opportunity to engage with our the folks who are running for office, and we provided questions to them up front, most of the time. This is going to be a time when we're not going to be providing questions up front to them, and we are going to be asking them to send the small team that's collating these questions. We're going to ask them, and I've had individual conversations with everybody with Paul Keller, and we will have this conversation tomorrow shortly. I want them to send a question to that small team about what they would like to hear from, what questions they would pose to their competitors. That's slightly different. Frequently in those kinds of environments, those questions will be a little bit more on the negative side. They're really looking for weaknesses and trying to get them to understand why they should be, or how they're going to resolve their particular weaknesses. A group of us will be involved. If any of you would also like to be involved, please let me know. This is a big tent. The tent, like the pie, can grow. And this is an important thing. This is the first time that we're going to have somebody from amongst us, from our district, representing us here in all the area. And that's a really positive thing. So thank you for coming. Thank you to the candidates. It's been informative. Thank you to Terry and Jamie. You've done a great job. They're always willing to